And for the second night in a row, we are live following more professional wrestling coming at you in heaping amounts over this past 48 hours. Hello, Wai Ting. Are you still, well, I was going to say, are you still standing? I can see you are not, but how are you doing mentally?
Am I mentally standing? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. I mean, it's cool if it's like once in a while we're getting one of these. Can you imagine if this is like a monthly thing, or even like eventually a weekly thing, dude? Like we wouldn't be able to do it all ourselves, obviously.
No, I mean, listen, there was some incredible wrestling this weekend, but I I do not feel this type of thing with any type of regularity is sustainable for people. And I'm not even stating that as something of though you're sitting through all of this. I think for a lot of people it would just simply be like too daunting to even tackle all these shows. And
Well,
I
well, that's sort of the point. I mean,
it
one
is
one
it is
company
the point.
wants to overwhelm so that you're not watching the other. So
Well,
I guess for people like us who are attempting to cover everything, yeah, we're gonna have to pick and choose.
yeah, I mean, this morning I so we finished the show last night. I watched Saturday night's main event because I wanted to clear out a portion of my Sunday. And then I was up this morning fairly early. I sat down and I went to load up Great American Bash. 2 minutes in, it's like I can't. I just cannot do this. And I turned it off. And my my viewing for the day was going to watch Superman. That is what I did. So shoot
Oh,
me, okay? I decided to take in the DC universe instead. So
those bullets would bounce right off of you, John, because nobody would be blaming you for watching Superman
yes, I went to watch instead of the Great American Bash. I watched the uh, the Great Immigrant, Clark Kent, as he was described in this video by James Gunn.
All right.
Describing it made it this quite the issue. I'm not going to talk any more about Superman because some people may not have seen it, present company included.
You will not, but Rich Fan and WH Park will, because they're back this week for the first ever edition of DCU Later, everybody. All right. That is going to be coming out exclusively for Post Wrestling Cafe members this Wednesday as Rich and WH go to the movies and they talk all about James Gunn's Superman, which is, but, well, can you tell us whether or not you enjoyed it?
I definitely enjoyed it. Yes, I would say underrated soundtrack in there as well.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
some yeah,
As usual with James Gunn movies.
yeah. You know what? It's definitely a James Gunn staple, but I really liked like this was a total like it was trying to really reposition Superman as like the whole thing was I think just to update him, to update Lois as well, and and basically start this whole DC universe as well. But
Cool.
I'm when it gets to these types of movies, I get very nervous talking about them in any kind of specific detail. So I'm just going to stop right now.
You liked it. That's all that matters. Just on the Great American Bash note, Braden and Davey, who I believe have they come back from All In?
I think they're back.
I think they're back too. Yeah. Anyway, they will be talking all about their thoughts on that particular show this Tuesday on Up Next. So
I
listen
can't
for that.
fathom they're going to sit down and watch that show before Tuesday, but
I
we will see.
mean, they're the comprehensive NXT people at Post Wrestling. They also have an All In podcast on the Poison Rana free feed. So if you want to hear their live perspective on those days' events, I recommend you guys check that out.
Yeah, do check it out. I thought Davey and Braden did some really great stuff all weekend long, not just with their media day work. It was very cool to see them there at media day doing a bunch of interviews, but they did these great travel pods as well. And I mean, uh, if you want to find out how these two ended up post All In at a bar with Megan Bain and Davey Portman going up to Tekla and speaking to her in German. I mean, this is what you need to
Wow.
go check out their latest travel pod to find out all about their post All In Texas. Because yes, of course, folks, after an 8-hour show, they were ready to go out on the town on Saturday night in Texas. But that can all be found poisonrana.ca. Before we get started, do hit the subscribe button and get us past 20K. We are here on almost every night of the week. But you get Rewind to Raw, Rewind to Dynamite, and Rewind to SmackDown here on the YouTube channel several hours after the shows. If you want to listen to us live immediately after those shows, consider joining up at postwrestlingcafe.com. You can get live access to all of our review shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights, as well as tons of bonus shows. And it's a big week as we will be starting off our G1 coverage next weekend, as we will be reviewing every single tournament match. Bruce Lord and Karen Peterson are up first next weekend, and we're going to have a podcast covering all of the shows over the next month. So postwrestlingcafe.com gives you access to all of those G1 podcasts, as well as our whole library of stuff. This week, we've got a Ask Away mailbag show, UFC 318 review with Eric Marcotte and Jack Wannon, and I'll be doing a TNA Slammiversary review next weekend as well after their big show at the UBS Arena. Will we get an 8-hour Slammiversary? I doubt it.
Doubtful, yeah.
I hope not. All of that can be found postwrestlingcafe.com. So, as promised, after we did our All in Texas review, tonight we will be focusing on the WWE events of the past 24 hours. We're going to start off with Saturday night's main event, and then we will get into Evolution. And before we just focus heavily on WWE, we should make a note that Fightful did have an update today about Adam Cole, that it is believed that he suffered a concussion. So that does look to be what Cole is dealing with. And obviously time will tell the severity of it and what it is going to mean for Adam Cole. Of course, he has had a history of concussions. He has had, a terrible run of injuries and health issues over the last number of years. So, I'm sure for many people, they were very concerned when he openly, said the word retirement, even though he was not announcing his retirement. But the fact that even came up, it does give you a glimpse into sort of what he's looking at now. I think this is so fresh. Like, this is only within the past day or so that this became an issue for Adam Cole. And with time, I mean, he needs to speak with doctors and get advice. And it's very hard to say what this will ultimately mean for Adam Cole. I wouldn't, bank on anything this early in the process and what it means for him. But obviously everyone is wishing him the best, and you saw a lot of nice posts from wrestlers across companies and stuff today coming out in support of Adam Cole.
Yeah. Sadly, it's like concussion issues just aren't really a rare type of thing we've kind of experienced as a wrestling community, right? Like retirements due to concussion issues is not a rare thing we've experienced. Again, really sad. I guess I hold up hope that like there are people who have suffered from concussion issues that have come back and have had like very fruitful careers. So hopefully Adam Cole is going to be one of them.
What is on his side is, he's 36 years old. Like, he is, someone that he could go away for a year or two, and you just don't know what is going to happen and what's in front of him. Let's go into Saturday night's main event. This went down the State Farm Arena, same site as Evolution tonight, presented by Jimmy John's. And Joe Tessitore and Jesse Ventura were there at the usual stage. However, very notable was Jesse Ventura not utilized on commentary. Do you think that there were some people maybe not fans of his destruction of Damian Priest having the audacity to walk out of that steel cage? Because Ventura did not get the tap for Goldberg to get a send-off with Jesse Ventura.
I would certainly suggest that that's probably a part of it. I would also suggest that, like, I mean, I don't think he would have fit in the Goldberg match. Maybe if they were going to like use him for something, it might have been for, I don't know what they would have used him for, honestly. Like, not the jelly roll, Logan Paul thing. I don't know if he would accentuated really anything. And I also think at this point, maybe the novelty of having like the Jesse sort of nostalgia sort of experience, I think that's really worn off. I know you really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people like really enjoyed like his commentary last time with the cage match.
I liked it for all the wrong reasons. I can't say that it was the most effective when you're watching it and your takeaway was, well, we've got to be doing a double turn here. No, that was just Jesse like, he's just calling what he's seeing in the moment and just going with it, even if it's counter to the directions, because it does bring about the question, like, obviously the first show, I think there was a novelty to the throwback of Saturday night's main event and using Jesse. By this point, like, this was certainly the least he was used. And I would say, like, it was a very minimal use of Jesse. And I can't say the show was necessarily harmed for his lack of usage either.
I think so much of like what this current regime's decision making processes are is determined by like somebody's crossover appeal, their mainstream appeal. I can understand Jesse having some of that initially, but like several iterations of this Saturday night's main event in, I don't think it makes any sort of difference, to whether or not somebody may be choosing to watch this show.
So the first match was Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, pretty much to set up the SummerSlam tag match where Jelly Roll is in the corner of Randy Orton while Drew has Logan Paul in his corner. And Drew ends up, after being dropped on the desk multiple times, it's Randy that gets dropped on the desk first, and then Drew ends up getting dropped on the desk later on. Paul gets on the apron, distracting. It leads to a Claymore, but Orton gets the foot on the rope, and then Paul and Jelly get into it on the floor, and Jelly Roll gets shoved, so he shoves Logan to the ground. Drew is yelling at him, challenges Jelly Roll to get into the ring, and as Drew goes to lift up Randy, RKO'd out of nowhere in 8:25. But more importantly was the post-match where Paul blasts Randy with a right hand. Jelly Roll gets in and throws Logan off of him to save his buddy Randy. And then we see Logan Paul, the man that has fought Floyd Mayweather Jr., throw a punch which is blocked by Jelly Roll with his defensive tendencies and drops Logan Paul with a right hand. And he Jelly Rolled to the floor. And everyone's chanting for Jelly Roll. And out of nowhere, we get the Claymore out of nowhere to Jelly Roll, who's unconscious. Aldis and Pierce are freaking out, thinking there's a lawsuit coming. Orton is so concerned about his friend Roll, and this would lead to the announcement later when Jelly Roll states, "I'm an adult. I want them anywhere, any place." And Randy books the match for SummerSlam. Randy Orton, Jelly Roll against Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. In terms of an angle, how did you think this was effective, and also this being their celebrity tie-in for SummerSlam?
Well, angle is exactly how I would describe this entire thing, because I think we barely got a match, and that to me is like one of the like first stark reminders of like these wrestling events. Saturday night's main event on NBC. You are getting mainly entrances. You're getting like this sort of storyline type of stuff. And you're
a
getting
commercial in the middle of the match.
A lot of commercials. Like you're getting entrances, 30 seconds of wrestling. Then it's like a 3-minute commercial break. And then they're pretty much going to the finish. Like, I mean, except in some other instances. But like for the most part, like certainly a match like this, very little time for the wrestling itself. Mostly on all the other things. That said, though, like Atlanta was a really hot crowd. They were hot tonight. They were certainly hot last night as well. And they treated all of this like it was special. Like they didn't just watch 2 minutes of wrestling, but like, well, they didn't. They saw whatever was happening throughout the commercial break. And they provided a wonderful backdrop to make everything, including this Jelly Roll stuff, feel massive and very well received. I thought the angle, like on Friday, but especially here on Saturday, turned out really well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the person that can gauge. I think sometimes we do make the mistake of just, well, this is a big name, and therefore that person's audience is going to come to watch them wrestle. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is going to be. I can say that I thought Jelly Roll is like fine in this. Like he's training for this, so I think this will be a very well handled and produced, choreographed match for Jelly Roll to do some key things. I don't have a whole lot of interest to see this guy wrestle, but I don't think this is going to be much beyond, several key spots that are very heavily protected for Jelly Roll to be involved. And ultimately, this is going to be judged based upon, does he bring any new eyes to this show, and is it seen as a big deal that he's wrestling? So if you're going to shoot this angle, I think NBC is probably the place you want to do it, to hopefully grab people that maybe are not your regular viewers every single week. So we will see. I mean, the show already for SummerSlam, like it's already a big success just with all that they've moved. So we'll see if this celebrity involvement is makes any kind of a difference to it.
Well, I mean, like I said, like so much of the moves of this regime is entirely based on like how much crossover appeal a certain act may have. That's why we're getting as much Travis Scott as we've gotten this year.
Oh yeah, so much Travis Scott.
Well, something. Do you think he was supposed to be? Do you think he was supposed to be in the spot? And like, maybe we're building up to a Jelly Roll, Travis Scott, Logan Paul triple threat, at some point. But it's a celebrity thing, and like as I said on Friday, to me, like I think it's welcome as long as like the celebrity feels like they are invested in it and that they're working hard towards it. And from what we hear, he's actively training and seemingly taking this seriously. So I have no idea who this dude is, to be honest, but like I could tolerate it, you know.
Yeah, I think our Uber driver from Cleveland last year, maybe they're going to make a trip to New Jersey. She was a big fan.
She loves Jelly Roll, yeah.
So they're showing the people in the crowd, the last one being Jade Cargill. Naomi jumps her from behind with the briefcase and attacks. So all this is out and makes the announcement that Bianca Belair will be the special referee at Evolution. Throughout the night, they were teeing up Goldberg's retirement and various people showing that were there on hand. Goldberg would mention like over 100 of his friends and family came in for this show. So got a bunch of comps, or he made them buy tickets.
Do you have a number, by the way?
It was over 12,000. I don't have the number right in front of me, but that was the last number from WrestleTix. We got Doug Dillinger showing here, DDP, and then the first of several Goldberg video packages. U.S. title match was a solo Sikoa against Jimmy Uso for the title. I thought this was one of Jimmy Uso's better singles matches in a while. He looked really good in this match. I would say like he stood out more than Sikoa. He took this as like a big match, did the Uso splash for a near fall, did a whisper in the wind to the floor onto all of the MFTs, and then he hits Tala Tonga with a PK from the edge of the ring, and then gets rolled up by Sikoa, and Tala uses his foot as leverage on Solo to beat Jimmy in 10 minutes and 48 seconds. Tala would lay out Jimmy as Mateo and Tonga Loa get involved. There's a Samoan spike. Jacob Fatu makes his return after his previous beatdown, and he runs wild on everyone, has a stare down with Tala, and gets dropped with a boot. And Tala then flies over the top, and there's a suicide dive by Fatu onto both men as Jacob Fatu and Jimmy Uso are left in the ring. But I would say like I had almost like there was no hype for this match at all. It was an online announcement for the show, but I would say like I thought Jimmy Uso over delivered here from a typical TV match you would expect.
I agree with that. I think so much of that, again, thanks to like a really hot Atlanta crowd who really got behind the idea of seeing this 4-on-1 beatdown, or at least like Jimmy fight off the 4-on-1, beatdown from the MFTs. I thought that was like that framed Jimmy into like a really like strong heroic light, and I hope it's something that they can use to just expand and like help Jimmy catch some momentum going forward, because he certainly needed it. Otherwise, I thought this was probably the most substantial wrestling match on the show, and it turned out well overall. And Jacob Fatu, like I think maybe we all expected would have some sort of involvement here. They continue to like give a pretty decent sort of protective coating around Tala Tonga, certainly more than like Jeff Cobb received. So I think he's being protected decently well.
Yes, Orton and Jelly Roll announced the match for SummerSlam. They will be RK Roll. We're gonna have some hideous merchandise for these two, I imagine.
That I guess a lot of people might buy. Sure.
Why don't we do like Bizarro World? Like Jelly Roll comes into his world. What if Randy Orton goes on tour with Jelly Roll and does like vocals on some as like backup for some of his concerts?
How do we know that won't happen? Maybe
I'm not disqualifying it. I think that's only fair.
Maybe he's jumping into the studio. Yeah.
The Steiners were here in Atlanta. No interview time with Rick. No thoughts on transgendered athletes in sports. No, none of his political thoughts were known here. He just waved to the crowd. LA Knight and Seth Rollins. Okay, a lot to talk about in this particular match. So early on, like the match is almost irrelevant for the ending portion here. So Rollins avoids a blunt force trauma and he leaps to the top for a superplex. And then after he slides under, hits a buckle bomb, he goes for a springboard swanton, tweaking the knee, and follows up with a cabrata where he comes down, landing on the right knee that gives out, and he goes down into the corner as the referee starts checking on him. And LA Knight is told to back off. They've got the camera on Rollins. And then after a minute or so, he finally gets up from the trainers and Knight walks over, BFT, and pins him instantly 11 minutes and 41 seconds. And you saw the footage afterwards. Rollins is being helped out. He's looking upset. And by the end of this, Cole and Wade just treat it like he's hurt and we're moving on. And so what did you think about this way?
Okay, so we were doing the all-in review. We saw people like chatting about it online. So, and then like also that some suspicion that it might have been an angle to protect the cash-in, and then hearing Sean Ross Sapp reporting that what his sources were telling him was that it was a legitimate thing. I guess I went in thinking, okay, it must be legitimate. Then I heard from other sources that it might not have been.
Okay, so here is what I have been told, and I will just share what I was told. Like I was told 2 days before this to look out for an injury angle with Seth Rollins that would it was even described to me. It would be an injury angle that gets him on crutches going into SummerSlam, something to that effect. So I was told this on 2 days before the match happens. So the only possibilities here, if I had been told this the day after this had played and someone is telling me this isn't real, it's like I might be getting, I would certainly need more information than that. The fact is I was told this in advance. So this person is not psychic. They are not Nostradamus. There are only two options here, is that this was a work or that they were planning a work and he really did get hurt. And I don't think that's the case either. So I'm very confident that this is a storyline and this is going to play itself out. And this part is just me speculating here, is that for Seth Rollins, his is probably the most celebrated cash-in that WWE promotes with the big heist of the century. Like, he can't just do a normal cash-in. They have to do something that is going to shock people. And certainly this is a way. And believe me, I have heard they are going to go to great lengths on this one. But anyway,
they're going to go to great lengths to convince people that
I think they're going to try very hard to make everyone believe he's out.
Meaning not telling other professional wrestlers or people who work in the company.
I can't speak for what they're telling other people or how many people know. I'm just conveying what I was told by a very, very good source that right. It's not even a case of trust or not trust. This happened as it was described to me 48 hours before the angle was executed. This is not a case of, well, maybe this will happen, maybe this won't, we'll see. It happened. It happened as it was described to me.
So you told me this, before I actually went to watch it. And what stood out to me upon watching it,
so you are watching it with the eyes of being suspicious.
Yes. And even before getting to maybe how I felt about the spot, Cole deliberately mentioning, we've heard about Seth Rollins' knee issues as of this Monday. He made constant reference to that in the spot, right after the spot. Mm-hmm. So to me, I immediately thought angle, because it was something that was directly playing into the storyline. I think for me, it's really hard to definitively say about these sort of things, but I do think there's something we can gain from seeing how they focus on the injury and how they whether emphasize it or maybe de-emphasize it. And I really felt in watching this that we were supposed to completely know that this was that this was happening, right? I also think for me it was really interesting to study the acting involved, because this is when you're getting into real acting and not just professional wrestling selling. You are now in the Seth Rollins trying to convince everybody that you are actually injured. Now this is again supposing this is all a performance. If you're actively having to really sell now, not just to convince us in a professional wrestling context, but in a real world context that you are hurt. And that would have to extend to everybody else, ringside as well, certainly LA Knight. And I just, again, I'm kind of colored by what you told me, but I also, in watching it, I did really just feel like it was performance. And like something like this is really difficult to pull off convincingly, you know. And I think it would
I think he did like a really good job if that was the intent. Like I think most people came away from this looking at it as legitimate.
I think the Sean Ross Sapp tweet probably did more of the convincing than I personally think the actual angle did. But I mean that was only maybe my own experience of it. I think it's incredibly ambitious, and I think it's incredibly risky trying to fool the other people in the back that this is real when it might not be. So I'm very curious to see how it plays out. I'm curious to see what lengths they might go. Again, this is all assuming that it is performance, and anything's possible. That second, scenario you lined out, the fact that maybe they did intend for this to be a work, but somehow he actually got injured. That is also a very valid possibility as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if anyone wants to question me, like that's perfectly fine. But the question I would have that I can't answer is then how was I told this on Thursday? Like this is someone that would absolutely have knowledge of this, and like what they just made the ultimate guess that just turned out to be a guy that got hurt on Saturday. I just. Like I can't explain that one other than that's my.
And they would have every reason to do this, wouldn't they? Like just to make us not think about the cash in. We'll see how they follow up with it, because it is interesting. Let's presume that this is like they're going to play this as if it's legitimate. Does the cash?
There's a great story here. Like I think everyone expects it's Gunther and CM Punk at SummerSlam, and that's a great opportunity to do something like this. Like if I was doing this, it would be, and I have not been told like this is the plan. This is just me purely guessing. Would be Punk wins the title and CM Punk steals it from him, and it's the
Rollins does.
Sorry, Rollins steals the title from Punk, and
sure.
And it's all a ruse. Is this whole deal?
Yeah, I'm just curious what lengths they will go to really try to convince us again, if this is performance, that this thing isn't happening. It's certainly maybe a bit more interesting. Just thinking about it that way than just this angle would have been on its own.
Listen, if he ends up going for surgery and this is all, I'll own that L. I absolutely will. But as I stand here today, I feel confident in this one. But
so John will often like hear about these sort of things, and he won't mention it on air, like even like after the fact. Like this was a scenario where, like, this is all to say, like, he's incredibly confident about this one. So anyway.
Well, that was the LA Knight Seth Rollins match for the time that it did last. And then the final thing on the show was Gunther and Bill Goldberg for the World Heavyweight title. And we get Bill Goldberg's final walkout where he is accompanied by his son Gage. We got Dillinger knocking on the door, and we get the crew of Gage, Ernest Miller, Chuck Zito of the Hells Angels, and Josh Barnett, all backing him up here. What a collection here. Ernest the Cat Miller from Velocity to Saturday night's main event. What a return.
These are the real Death Riders.
Yeah, look at this. Look at Gage. I mean, man, he's come so far from the little shirtless kid in the ring with his father.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that must have inspired him to. Well, maybe he will be the next iteration. Can you imagine him with a shaved head? I bet you he'd look pretty similar.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, more of Gage to come, but huge Goldberg chant. He comes out. He's super over here in Atlanta. Gunther is just the hated heel here that goes to work on Goldberg's bad knee and would end up taking the knee brace off, attacking Bill with it. And, Goldberg is, it's 58-year-old Bill Goldberg, and he ended up having the longest match in 22 years. He has not had a longer match since December of 2003. So he teases the spear and Gunther rolls out, but then later in the match, he goes for the spear, misses, and he spears Charles Robinson, who today posted an X-ray of his rib that looked to be messed up from this spot, but he said, it was an honor to take this spear from Bill Goldberg.
And he's had a rough month.
This
Charles
guy,
Robinson, between
Lil
the
Nate.
Cena, like
The
tackle.
pounce. Yeah.
Yeah.
He took
Wow.
that. This guy doesn't mess around.
Oh my God. This is crazy.
Had his big sprint earlier this year.
I'm sure they're taking care of him, but man, poor guy.
Gage is in the front row. Gunther got in his face, and Gage has to be held back from Gunther. When do we get that one?
Cage and Gunther, maybe in 20 years. Yeah.
I don't know if
Maybe
Gunther will
10.
still be doing this.
Maybe 5. Yeah.
So the referee's out, and Goldberg ends up spearing Gunther when he returns to the ring from getting away from Gage. And the jackhammer is hit, but his knee is injured, and he can't go for the cover immediately. New referee Sean Bennett runs out. He gets on top. Gunther kicks out, and the crowd is heated. The knee gives out one more time, and Gunther snatches the sleeper hold onto Goldberg as he fights, but he goes out at 14 minutes and 26 seconds. And I would say for Bill Goldberg, it's always you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes it is just cacophony. It can be highs and lows with a Bill Goldberg match. I would think he should be pretty happy with this for a 14 and a half minute match at 58 years old. He had a great opponent. You can see he put a lot of work into getting ready for this match, and I would say this was a really good match for him to go out with. It was a great crowd. They were super into him, and more than even the match is the post match, where unfortunately, because they were against the clock, you basically got the first sentence out of this 10-minute speech, and they just had to fade to black and get out because you don't get an overrun on network television. But thankfully, WWE did put the whole speech up on WWE.com today. And yeah, it was a great speech. He thanked everybody that came to see him. He said, everyone here in the ring means a whole lot to me. He gave a speech about treat others with respect and treat them like you want to be treated. He mentioned the victims in Central Texas, which is like 10 minutes from his house. He also mentioned, the disaster in North Carolina over the last few years. He says, you're never too good to lend a helping hand, and there's never going to be another Goldberg, except for this guy, as he points to Gage, and he ends it with a mic drop. Literally, he said, mic drop moment. And Cody came out, thanked him, called him Georgia royalty, and that is how it ended. So it was a really nice send-off here, I thought, for Bill Goldberg.
I thought the match was a tremendous success, in my opinion. All you have to do is listen to the reaction this guy garnered towards the end of this crowd, from this crowd wanting to see this 58-year-old man extend his career. I did not expect them to achieve that level of buzz for a Bill Goldberg match. I think they really managed to utilize like what he could still do to its full effect, like in this part of the match. We should note, like, of the 14 minutes, like what, 3 minutes of it was cut out because of commercial breaks, or more than that. Did they have more than one commercial?
They might have had 2 breaks. I'm trying to remember.
6, possibly at least 6 minutes of the 14 minutes we didn't actually get to see, but maybe that would have been to their benefit, because what we did see, I thought, like, turned out pretty well. He can't, at least, like, I don't recall seeing at least too many back bumps, if at all, from Goldberg in this match. So it relied on Gunther like doing the sort of like test of strength and then taking the bump for him. So even though he can't bump, he can certainly shove. And I would say at this point he can sell, because his knee is actually probably quite fucked up. So that managed to look very convincing. And even though, like, again, like, mobility may be what it is for him, he's still a heavy guy. And to just simply, like, use your weight to fall on top of somebody, like, charging at somebody, still allows for a very convincing and impactful looking spear, which I thought Gunther received incredibly well. The chop exchangers I thought worked really strong as well. But what, like, really impressed me, and like I'm sure many people, is him managing to execute like a nearly perfect looking jackhammer. I know a lot of credit goes to Gunther probably as well, but I think a lot of it obviously should be on Bill Goldberg for his ability to manage that towards the end of this like 14-minute match, and it just lifted this crowd to an incredible level where they're chanting actively Goldberg, Goldberg. Did not expect that to look as good. And it almost felt like a little miracle was made after, like, seeing at least one or two botched versions of this in the past. So given his physical limitations and in-ring style, I thought this was about as much as you could hope for a great final match from Goldberg.
Yeah, I think things went as well as they were going to. I thought this was the right city to do it in. And honestly, like I wish this 10 minutes at the end could have aired on the show. Like, to me, that was probably the best thing of all, and would have, to me, any of these matches that you could have scrapped. But, didn't work out that way, but they did get it out there as well. So, I mean, it was a fine show. I mean, it was kind of just, my head was spinning by the end of Saturday and watching, All In, and then going into this. It was a very different show altogether. But, I mean, these are very quick watches as well when you're, eliminating all of the non-essential stuff on these shows, which there's a fair amount of.
Well, I could just say, like, I can't imagine watching this show live. I think it would have been unbearable, like sitting through just the way these are structured, where, again, it's just like a lot of pomp and circumstance. And I'll be the first to, like, maybe agree that, like, that's a very integral part of wrestling, but you still have to back it up with wrestling, especially, like, when it comes to something like this that feels like it's just a real heartfelt, substantial moment. I mean, I hate these shows. Like, I hate these Saturday night main event shows. Not because they're tough to watch, but because I think they're ultimately so hollow and so soulless for the most of them. And I think this one, like, probably helped by the fact that you got, like, a real moment here with Bill Goldberg. But I also really wish this could have taken place on, like, in sort of uninterrupted, different type of setting.
Well, we'll now move on to Sunday night show with Evolution at the same venue in Atlanta. Final number from WrestleTix had it up at 8,303. So these numbers, when WrestleTix does put them out, it's tickets distributed. So it's a combination of both sold and comps. And, a week ago, they were under 5,000 out for this show. So I imagine, like, they did have, like, a push throughout the week that you were going to move tickets. But, anyway, it's not like this looked bad by any stretch when you're getting 8,300 people in this arena, which is a very big venue. So they took the same setup using Joe Tessitore as the host on this show. Actually, we should just go through on the pre-show. They had the regular panel, and then they had Tori Wilson stopping by. Nikki Bella was interviewed. Jacqueline was on there, and they also did this very cool feature on the two of the female referees, Jessica Carr and Daphne LaShawn, as well on the pre-show, which was a good feature that they did. It opened up with a Katy Perry video of Rise with these three young girls that are there sitting in front of the television with their action figures watching WWE women wrestling on television. And then we segue to Joe Tessitore, who welcomes Stephanie McMahon to play the role of Jesse Ventura tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So she was our unofficial host of the evening. And Stephanie spoke about the first Evolution, and it was about proving that we belonged and that the people would show up and watch. And here we are 7 years later. It's like, yeah, 7 years later, where we haven't done one of these shows since.
We belonged at one moment, and then we didn't belong for the next 7 years.
Yes, we were cast aside for 7 more years, but we're back. Michael Cole and Wade Barrett are on commentary. Wade Barrett had a night, okay? He had some wild lines on this show. I hope I
thought Cole had a bit of a night, too.
Oh, Cole did too. Yeah, with his favorite diva that was not here. Replacing Lillian Garcia. Lillian Garcia was off the show. She did Saturday night's main event, but she had a respiratory infection she's had for several weeks. Her voice gave out, and she could not do Evolution. So we had Alicia Taylor calling it. And we had their center of the ring way, Maybelline, New York.
Yeah. I think it's a significant brand activation, John. One that is. I'm gonna wait.
I didn't have one.
I'm gonna wait.
Ready to go here. Sometimes it's hard. I gotta look. I'm like, what really?
We need to set you up with, like, a little button, like a little soundboard that you could just press a button for.
Yeah, I need to.
Good ad rates. So you really want to drive those ratings.
No, I love this activation. I think it's it's great for the market, great for the IPO. Um, I mean, I do think it's significant because it is like, to our knowledge, maybe the first like female targeted like major brand that they've had
Hmm.
for it. And as I mentioned, like on the Friday Cafe show, like for all the talk of like maybe this not necessarily doing as well in terms of attendance, just strictly having this sort of monetary benefit to a show like this that you could cater specifically for these sort of brands, I think might give this show some legs and some potential of repeat. So I certainly noticed that. I also noticed maybe a few other sponsors that were active in this activation. Walmart actually on the bottom
Yes.
turnbuckle, which I felt was new. Didn't see that
I
before.
thought I saw that too, and I don't think we've seen Walmart before, but they had Naked Gun also had was on the mat. Riyadh season, quite the eclectic
Yes.
mix. Yes,
Well, Riyadh season, I think maybe being
maybe that's
a
where the
bit more
next
of an intro.
evolution will take place.
I was going to suggest maybe at some point they could do an evolution in
As
Riyadh.
Cody says, we go where the shows take us.
Yeah, I wonder if they'd be willing to pay however much they pay for an evolution.
First matchup is Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Lyra Valkyria for the Intercontinental title. Big ovation when the match begins. Like this was a great crowd that was here to, you could see, like, support this show, and they're like on their feet right as they're starting. And we saw Becky and Bayley, they worked together briefly, but then they would just shift gears. But man, they were going at just a great pace here. All these different three-way spots. We saw multiple counters of the Rose Plant, the Manhandle Slam. Lyra hit this great spin kick, and then into the Northern Lights and a Fisherman Buster. Bayley broke it with an elbow drop, so the crowd went nuts for that, chanting for Bayley. And then after a disarmer is stopped, Bayley tries for the Rose Plant. Lyra comes off with her guillotine leg drop that she used to utilize in the past, doesn't as much. And Becky flips Lyra onto the front, hits the manhandle slam, but Bayley saves. Bayley busting out an Emerald Flosion on the show into a Bayley to belly, but Lyra makes the save. Then there's a Nightwing. Bayley breaks that one up, and it ends with Bayley and Lyra trading covers, ends with a Rose Plant in transition, goes to stack Lyra, and Becky flips over, backslides Bayley, and pins her in 16 and a half minutes. I thought this match was excellent.
I thought it was an awesome match. I feel like it's the type of, so we know for a long time that like WWE loves their three ways and they know how to book them well. I feel somehow like that might be especially the case when it comes to the women because like they've really delivered on almost all of these. I felt like this match was so good that I would put it in league with the Rhea Io Bianca match at Mania at the very least in terms of style and in terms of quality. I think maybe just a notch below that. Certainly like due to like just setting, we're probably not going to be talking about this one nearly as much, but I thought like they just kicked ass. It was very
It's a
sprinty and
great opener. And like, this was my match of the night. I just thought these three were just on for these 16 and a half minutes. It really kicked off the show. It made it feel important. And yeah, I thought like all of them. The only surprise I had was that Bayley took the cover because I thought that we would go kind of Lyra out of the picture and you'd get to this Becky Bayley singles match, which I guess they could still go to, but it was Bayley taking the pin here.
well, like I think Lyra really is the project, among the two of them. Obviously, Bayley and Becky are already well established, and Lyra, like they probably see quite the future in, and I think she's like stepped up. So I think for that reason, she deserves protecting because I think she's still on the ascent. Whereas a Bayley can afford as many losses as I think you could give her, and I think she's fine. Um, but yeah, really well designed match layout. Like two people doing this, third one comes in to break it up, and then right into the next thing, and then that person breaks it up. It just kind of went on, but it was just incredibly satisfying to see unfold. I thought all three just performed at their very best here. So great way to start the show.
We got the staple of the faces in the crowd. Ava, Mark Henry, and Vicky Guerrero were our first grouping. Jacy Jayne, Jordynne Grace for the NXT Women's title. So earlier in the day, Blake Monroe, who teamed with Jordynne last night, they've been best friends now for 2 weeks, and I'm not exaggerating. Jordynne Grace, after last night, their bonding experience, going to the salon, invites Blake to be in her corner. Monroe does not want to overstep her boundaries, and Grace says, no, it would be important for you to be there with me. Uh-oh. So Jordynne brings her. We have Jacy Jayne out with Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix, and Grace early on lifts Jayne for a power bomb. I had to watch this multiple times to see what happened. She lifts her up for a power bomb, places her on the turnbuckle, and then Jordynne like sits out taking a bump by herself as Jacy had been placed on the turnbuckle. Then Jacy falls off the turnbuckle. Then Jordynne gets up, lifts her up for another sit-out power bomb. I did not know what the execution was here, but we just moved on from this. There was a top rope Rana when Jacy Jayne took over for a while. Nix distracts, and then Monroe headbutts Fallon Henley. There's a tug of war with the belt, and Grace goes for a roll-up, gets a 2 count. Nix then picks up the belt on the floor. She starts staring at it. Monroe runs over her, and during a reverse Irish whip, Jordynne Grace runs the ropes, and Monroe nails her with the belt. And Michael Cole, backfire! He's selling this as though this was a mistake, and everyone's watching Blake Monroe, who this could not be more intentional based on, like, you're watching her.
Like, Cole is reacting to it, I think, from a live perspective where he couldn't see Monroe's face. And I think was reacting to it as like a sort of like very, at this point, like cliche pro wrestling spot of like somebody hitting their own partner by accident. Even though we're supposed to not sure. But the way Monroe sold it with her facial expressions, it was very obvious to anybody who saw it. So, I mean, to me, it maybe tells me that like Cole isn't like really kind of let in on, or at least like he chooses not to know exactly the way these stories are supposed to completely, play out.
Well, I mean, there's a novelty to that approach. That's the Jim Ross approach to matches. But then sometimes you get examples like this. So after the belt shot to Jordynne, she's hit with the rolling encore. Jayne pins her in 10.5 minutes. And Cole, wait, that was an accident, right? No, Michael, I'm sorry to break it to you, but the best friends of 14 days, it's over. It's over. This long drawn out tease is over. So Monroe hands the belt to Jacy Jayne and walks off. So this was not her joining the group, but rather just... And she pinned Jacy Jayne in the tag match. So in theory, Blake Monroe is due a title match coming out of this after she got the pin in the match at Great American Bash. So I don't know. This was... Blake Monroe did all these like heel vignettes, came in, and her first promo, it was as though she were a heel, got approached by like Jacy Jayne and them, and then is a babyface by the end of that segment, aligns with Jordynne Grace, and now she's a heel. And this is all within like 4 weeks.
Well, I mean, I think we could say that like these several weeks were like bonding with Jordynne Grace were just like some form of decoy before like just continuing with what has essentially always been a heel role for her. I think so much of like Blake Monroe and or Mariah May, like the sort of like experience we're getting from her is assuming that we've all watched the Toni Storm feud, right? And so I think prolonging like a Jordynne Grace friendship would, like, everybody's already suspecting that she's going to turn anyway. It's just kind of what she does, right? So I didn't think that it was something that people were going to take seriously or be shocked by that much anyway. So I feel like this was never meant to be like a long lasting thing, and more so just something to launch her into her first real feud with a little bit more sort of like, fire attached to it.
2 years from now, are these two going to sit down in a locker room with a chain and they're going to go over this belt shot and what it meant?
No, obviously not.
My kids are still screaming over this belt shot.
We're missing a few like house burnings and home invasions to really get to that point.
That comes up on Tuesday.
But this is just really meant to be an introductory feud to introduce us to Blake Monroe and to, I guess, get Jordynne Grace up to maybe the most substantial program she's had in NXT to date. For me, like, my interest in watching this was like on certainly that, but also on Jacy Jayne, who I really don't think she's a standout talent, especially like when there's so many standout talents in NXT right now. Like, she's not a Stephanie Vaquer or Roxanne Perez or even like a Lash Legend, I think we could say. But like, I do think she's good and she's capable, and I think giving her the belt has helped speed up her progression, and I think we have seen improvements in this short amount of time. So I was impressed with her confidence here and her ability to just like hold this sort of role. Grace is somebody who's already over with the crowd. She's been since her first Rumble appearance, so I think she's progressing well. But yeah, Do you see like who amongst this crop do you see advancing to the main roster like within the next year?
Blake Monroe, 100%. I'd be stunned if she's in NXT a year from now.
I would say Jordynne Grace more like even sooner than Blake Monroe, but yeah, probably the both of them.
Yeah, Grace as well. I would put in there. Jacy Jayne, I'm not as sure about. Like with Fatal Influence, I mean, they're a fine act on NXT. I don't know if they're. Well, there's a lot of great women on.
They don't really
rosters.
bring up factions, just like other than like maybe the Creeds and Nile together, like because they're at different levels of progression, right? So they probably want to keep like at least a Jasmine Nix down there or something.
Yeah, the match was fine. I would say not at the level for a big Jordynne Grace match that you would expect on a big show. I wasn't a big fan of the angle at the end. It just to me came across as kind of just very rushed and very just speeding through a lot. SummerSlam promo aired August 2nd and 3rd, 6 p.m. Eastern start times. Not good.
My wife will not be happy about that.
I'm sorry.
It's like rush hour in our house.
Well, maybe a better time slot for you to be covering a show is WWE Late Night, where Cody Rhodes will be the guest with Tony Hinchcliffe. What could go wrong? Maybe they'll talk about Saudi Arabia.
I wonder.
I don't know. Will the audio reach the internet?
Will you listen if it does?
No, I won't. I didn't listen to the last one.
So they have nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Jazz, Ivory, Jacqueline, and Maurice were all showing. And then Tessa Torres with Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie, did you see that double soul snatcher on SmackDown? Could you believe it, Joe? I've never seen anything like that. These two. They I would love to see these two just having to hang out for a day.
Are you telling me there's something off with the authenticity of either of these men, John?
Stephanie being scripted to do like just natural conversations with people. Yes, I do. Even with her doing the podcast now, I think it is a little outside of her comfort zone. Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez against We're Not Friends, We're Allies of Convenience versus the Kabuki Warriors versus Sol Ruca and Zaria for the women's tag titles. So this was a very interesting match because Raquel starts off with Kyrie and suddenly the crowd starts chanting, "We want Charlotte." Yeah. And I suddenly realized we have 8,000 Players Tribune readers in this arena.
This to me was like probably the most shocking thing on the show, including the main event result. Okay. The fact that because we just saw Charlotte on SmackDown, nothing of this nature.
No.
This match starts and they're chanting, "We want Charlotte." So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, what else could this be other than
It took them a few days to read the whole article.
I'm like, okay, how much of Atlanta do you think is it what sort of ties does Charlotte have to Atlanta beyond? I guess did she live here? Did she live for a long time?
Rick might still live in Atlanta.
So is she could this be?
No, I don't think this is any attachment
hometown?
To the city. I really believe that it was two things. It was the Players Tribune article, and I seriously believe that whole study that got circulated about the athlete that gets the most hatred online of all athletes is Charlotte Flair. And I think the double of that is the result that we had here is suddenly.
How about the Taker interview? I didn't get a chance to listen to it.
I didn't see it either. So I don't know what she said on there.
I was shocked. Not because obviously if you read that Players Tribune piece, I think you could completely understand it. I'm shocked at how many people may have read the Players Tribune piece or at the very least got the takeaways from it. I really couldn't believe
I went into this thinking it's just going to be a matter of time that they're going to break up Alexa and Charlotte. And by the end of this, because of this reaction, I'm thinking, listen, this is something where Charlotte is actually resonating with the audience. And I would leave these two together this.
So the thing is, I wonder how, I wonder if this will be replicated. For instance, next Friday on SmackDown. And even if it doesn't, if I'm WWE, I'm doing everything I can to get Charlotte to tell that story she told in the Players Tribune.
It's exactly what you said. Enough of her being Charlotte and present her as Ashley. And I think that would, not so much as having to change her name on TV, but the presentation of her, make her more of just instead of just the character. Make her more of this person, because I think that was what resonated here with this audience. Like, this was the most I've seen like an audience behind Charlotte in forever.
And
she was the star of this match to this crowd.
And it was like literally overnight,
Yes.
Like, so yeah, I could believe it. We'll see if it continues.
Flair is, you can see the look on her face at one point where it was like, she was like totally surprised by this. Like, she was taken aback. When they made the tag to her, the place goes wild. And she did this awesome comeback. She speared Roxanne. Then Asuka's in. Asuka looked great in this as well. Zaria and Sol Ruca performed the keg stand. I guess with Casey Catanzaro gone, the move was a free agent, and they have taken it. She hits the Soul Snatcher onto Charlotte. Ruca then avoids the Sister Abigail. Flair yanks Alexa out of danger as Zaria goes for a spear, and instead Zaria spears Sol Ruca. So we basically got the Goldberg spot with Charles Robinson. Sol Ruca is Charles Robinson here.
Yeah, I guess except there's some follow-up here to this.
So Zaria takes out her partner, and there's a pop rocks onto Charlotte. Raquel then power bombs Bliss to the others on the floor, and Perez dives onto Charlotte, leaving Ruca to take the Tahana bomb, and Raquel pins her. 10 minutes, 50 seconds with the champions retaining, and a semblance of a tag division here. One being from NXT, the others have not teamed in a long time with Asuka and Sane, and the others were having their first tag match together.
Well, it tells you how thin, like, this match to me highlights just exactly how thin like women's tag team wrestling might be on the show when you're taking like really, I would say 3 teams that aren't really teams, or at least like completely fresh teams, and I include the Kabuki Warriors in that because they were not reunited until this past week. But like this match was exactly just, I think, a reason to like get some of these like big names on the show without having singles matches, for instance. And to that end, I thought it was a good match, successful. To me, it will be remembered specifically for the Charlotte reaction, because I'm very curious to see if that's replicated elsewhere. But I thought otherwise the Kabuki Warriors look good. Sol Ruca, I have to say, like, maybe because like we've seen so many memorable spots from her in these sort of like main roster appearances, or at least like in these sort of notable appearances so far, I think I might have left this one a little disappointed that we didn't see something that might be like, highlight reel worthy. But she still continued to look very good here. I'm less convinced with Zaria, honestly, for me, just because I think with the way she's presented and the way that like she carries herself and the way that she's scripted in those segments has left a lot to be desired. Like, I thought she'd come in as like a female Brock Lesnar, and she's really been anything but. If anything, she's been kind of generic to me. So I don't know. I mean, those two obviously I could see maybe staying in NXT a bit longer.
Tori Wilson was shown, Melina, Molly Holly in the crowd. Next match was Tiffany Stratton, Trish Stratus for the women's championship. Trish comes out, her kids were in the crowd. She gave them a hug, and then we get into the match, and there's a series of headlock takeovers by Trish, and she uses a head scissors, gets an applause from the crowd, and then hits a stratosphere off the apron, sending Stratton to the floor. They would get into a chop and forearm exchange, and then it's Stratton with handspring back elbow, and she lifts up Trish Stratus and hits the end of Heartache, which Wade is unsure what you would call that, but I assume some nerd online will correct me.
Raise his hand. Yes.
I guess that was my job. Stratton then hits a swanton for a 2 count. Stratus shoves her to avoid the PME and hits a stratosphere off the buckle, chick kick, and then the Stratusfaction is blocked, and it's Tiffany going for the PME, landing on the knees, and that leads to the big near fall after a Stratusfaction. Stratton kicks out. Trish can't believe it, so Trish climbs to the top. She goes for her own moonsault as a shout out to Lita, and lands on the knees, and it's Stratton getting up, landing her own chick kick, an Alabama slam, and the PME, and she wins this match 8 minutes and 30 seconds. This was the shortest match on the show, and I was very surprised this one got as little time as it did. I thought they were having like a nice match. It just ended much earlier than I thought it was. I thought they were going to get like double this amount of time.
I don't know if I had much like different expectation for maybe what the result was. Like to me, the 8 minutes felt like a very satisfying 8 minutes. You know, considering that like this is a semi-retired professional wrestler, and that there really has not been much like build to this one beyond just these two being former like what like 2 week tag partners or
I
something
mean,
like
our
that.
two title matches were "I'm choosing you." That was our
Right.
build-up. The
Yeah.
video
True.
packages left a lot to be desired of what they could
Yeah.
comb together.
But I thought it was a very like good 8 minutes, and in particular, I thought it was an incredible performance from Trish Stratus. I thought
Yeah.
this was like I've seen a lot of Trish wrestling in recent years, and I thought this would be similar to some of those. But I was surprised and almost sometimes shocked at how much like better she looked here compared to some of those other matches. First, I think there's obviously great chemistry between her and Tiffany Stratton, but I also think like this match has had Trish adapt her wrestling to a modern style that demands, I think, a lot more fluidity and also exciting counter sequences, which you got here when, you know, in that like Stratus faction to Stratton blocking, immediately going for the PME, then Trish blocking with the knees, only to successfully hit the Stratus faction again. It's that beat, boom, 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 boom,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that we saw like in the Bucks Swerve Osprey match, like to its maximum potential. But you got some version of it here, and that was already impressive enough to me for Trish Stratus. But then she hit that beautiful moonsault, and like how often, like, correct me if I'm wrong, some nerd is going to correct me about like how often she's hit a moonsault, but I cannot remember her hitting a moonsault before. Do you?
There isn't one that comes to mind for me. I
So
don't.
like, I mean, we're talking about like I don't know, I don't
She's
even
the
know.
Terry Funk, you know, introducing the
Most people
moonsault.
cut out exactly. Most people cut out moonsaults at this age.
Yeah.
Trish is learning to adopt them at her age. And I think obviously on top of that, as a tribute to her bestie, just adds this sort of wonderful sentimental touch to make that already very beautiful looking moonsault into something more than just an impressive physical feat. So I really do think like, I mean, Trish, physically and also just in terms of in ring, she it feels like she's aging in reverse, and I thought it was maybe one of the best performances I've seen from her since her coming back from retirement all those years ago.
Yeah. I think overall this show got really the short end of the stick when it came to promotion, but this match in particular, like they gave these two so little, and you had basically had a history of these two going over a year since they interacted at Money in the Bank in Toronto, and it was just, I don't know. I was very underwhelmed with the promo on Friday. Like I
There's no
watched
heat. Like
I
if they
watched you
had,
on a VCR.
well, if
Like
they had more time, they could have built an actual feud between the two of them. But it was just like, hey, I tagged with you. I was friends with you. We went and did yoga together. Let's have a match. And who can really kind of get into like build anticipation for something like that?
Trish was left in the ring. Crowd chanted, "Thank you, Trish," and she exited. Medusa, and you know what that means? She didn't come alone. She brought the women's belt, and she had to hold up. I was like, this poor woman. If you, there is nothing she wants to be more distanced from is this garbage can deal. But
Has she
anyway,
said that she's sick
in
of
her
this?
book, like, yes, she's like,
Oh,
it's like it's a part of my career, but it's like I think I did a lot of other things in my career beyond putting a belt in a trash can 30 years ago. Leilani Kai was here, followed by two other icons, Metro Boomin and Lil Yachty. Little Yachty was here.
this show was all about paying tribute to the female wrestlers of the past and also modern day rappers and rap producers.
No holds barred match. Naomi and Jade Cargill with Bianca Belair as the referee. They started on the floor. It might be unfair, but I'm going to be the guy to say it. Really tough to do this match less than 24 hours after a Texas death match. I'll just say that. When she brought out that
Sure.
chain and wrapped it around her fist, it was very hard to separate the two. But they tried here. They had plenty of weapons here. We had the old reliable kendo stick, the toolbox, and the most dangerous weapon of all. The Slim Jim table is back. After missing out on the trip to Saudi Arabia, Slim Jim was represented on this premium live event. Naomi gets a chain, starts choking her with it, and then Jade tosses her off the top, wraps the chain around her fist, and then starts punching her. Then grabs a camera from ringside that the announcers estimated was worth $100,000 as Jade attacked Naomi with it. This is 4K.
100 grand. I think would be stretching it. I mean, something also tells me this was likely a prop camera. well.
No, you think so? It's redundancy that we've got, because we've got the UFC and we've got WWE cameras, and we have a lot of overhead that is realized through this strategic alliance.
Oh, if this was a real camera, you could tell Mark Shapiro would be
He'd
really
cry,
upset.
okay?
Yeah.
That would have been, his emotional moment of the night. Trash can is put
Like
over Naomi.
5 more people are getting let go to make up for the price of this camera.
Bye. The Battle Royal just became a feast or fired match. So the trash can is placed over Naomi's head. She's dropped with it. Jade takes the toolbox from the ring and goes to drop it on her head. Naomi gets out of the way. A lot of trust there. Naomi hits a sit-out drop kick, sending Jade into a monitor attached to the desk, and the plume of smoke starts to come up. Wade is concerned that Jade was electrocuted. She was not, we can confirm.
Okay, so number one, if this was real life, I would have a lot of questions about the electricians.
Maybe this was $100,000 monitor.
It could have been, yeah. I mean, well, it wouldn't.
What was in this television?
It wouldn't
monitor
smoke like that if it was that expensive. So yeah, I'd have questions about like who's doing the electrician work for the WWE. But in a wrestling match, I thought it was a pretty cool special effect.
Okay, well, it was smoking, and Naomi tries to drive her face into the table leg, but then a chair knocks Jade off the apron into the Slim Jim table as she crashes and snaps into it. Naomi's got a busted nose here, and is like her whole bridge of her nose is bleeding. Jade stops her with a chair on the turnbuckle, turns her around, jaded off the buckle through the table, and beats Naomi in the no holds barred match. And by the end of the night, we would get a follow up to Naomi as well. But what did you think about the no holds barred affair?
I guess thankfully I did not have Texas Death anywhere near my mind in watching this. Like that, it's a completely different.
Oh, I skipped over the bed of nails that Jade brought out after to drop her on.
I mean,
Jaded.
that's just like it's a completely different universe to me. Of maybe discussion. Like as a Jade and Naomi match, I thought it was a very solid match, and I thought it was like entertaining throughout. The bells and whistles are, I think, the way to go for number one, the nature of this feud being what it is, a long-standing feud coming off of somebody being shoved onto like a car hood, but also to mask Jade's limitations in what a pure wrestling match may entail. I don't even want to say like fine, like because I think she's shown that I don't know if she's necessarily up to the standard that we're seeing now. But like in this sort of match where like you could just kind of like spike the crowd through a lot of this sort of stuff, I thought this turned out pretty well. They planned some smart spots like with the TV, and even something as simple as like driving Jade's face into the table leg, and obviously like with the jaded finish. I thought like all turned out pretty well.
That was the squeamish moment for the crowd, was her face almost being put into the table leg.
Yeah, no bed of nails, no like glass here, no syringes. It was the
fork with a triangle applied, stabbing.
But I also think like the crowd has been really strong all weekend, and I thought they really played their part to lift this to a higher level too.
It was a nice match that they had overall. And we'll get into more with the.
I thought Bianca would play some sort of role. She played a completely.
She was like a non-entity in this whole match. Didn't tease anything either way. Like almost like if you wouldn't have known better, like you might not have even noticed Bianca in this match. Like she wasn't figured into anything. There was no physicality with her, nor teases for anything that I took from this.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering like how close she is to coming back. Because she made that appearance in Knoxville and then just kind of went back away. Was this like, did they deliberately not build to something to make us not anticipate her coming back so soon, or what? I wonder.
They announced for Raw Monday a gauntlet match, no casinos involved, with LA Knight, Braun Breaker, CM Punk, Penta, and Jey Uso to determine who will face Gunther at SummerSlam. Are you expecting Punk?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think most
everyone is.
For SummerSlam, yeah.
Battle Royal next for a shot at one of the women's championships at Clash in Paris. So we had Nikki Bella, Chelsea Green, Nia Jax, Natalya, Maxine, Julia, Zelina Vega, Stephanie Vaquer, Ivy Nile, Jada Parker, Elba Fire, Piper Niven, Izzy Dame, Lash Legend, Kalani Jordan, Lola Vice, Meechin, B-Fab, Candice, LeRae, and Tatum Paxley, all represented, and every one of them got an entrance. This tacked on like 20 minutes to the show.
Yeah, it did.
There is a reason they don't do the entrances, but I feel they were probably aware that they would have caught some grief if everyone was just shuttered into the ring during the breaks, and like Nikki was the only one to get the entrance. So they gave everyone an entrance here. Jax immediately throws out Paxley and Dame, and they tease Kalani also being part of the NXT Outcast, sent right back down to Florida. But Kalani gets caught by the other two on the floor, ends up on the desk, and ends up walking on her hands over to the ring and in for our Kofi Kingston spot with Kalani Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, Kofi Kingston's spot is exactly, I think, what we termed this, but she did this way more gracefully than like Kofi, or maybe other than like Casey Catanzaro. I feel like she's done something like this before, but like, man, like Kalani made it look so easy.
Yeah, this has been handed down to Kalani.
Wow.
Kofi had some of those rough ones toward the end. It was time for him to move on from this mantle. This is a young man's or a young woman's domain in a battle royal. So early on, Vaquer teases the devil's kiss to Nikki, but for heat, Chelsea Green breaks it up, and the crowd is livid. They have come here to see a woman put her legs around another woman's head and ram it into the mat. And don't worry, crowd. They've got you, okay? Don't worry. They're going to structure everything around this moment. We had Maxine and Natalya doing caterpillars. I would say this is Natalya didn't get as much oomph.
She picked that up from Stu?
Well, no, I'm not going to do a Stu. Jada, so we have Natalya gets eliminated by Jada Parker. And then Maxine is furious about this. Maxine is then placed on the edge and knocked out by Candice LeRae, who Cole identifies as Candice Michelle. And this is
which he's done plenty
in
of
the past.
Yeah.
Yes, he's done that before, and Wade calls him on this, and Cole like, oh, she's gonna get mad. Candice is gonna get mad at me again for that. So then we continue, and Candice LeRae gets eliminated, and then from the floor she yanks out Kalani Jordan. Michael Cole calls her Candice Michelle again. And then Wade is like, you did call her Candice LeRae, right? And he's like, yeah. And he just goes on again. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Okay. I feel like Michael Cole, I'm sure he's made like certain blemishes like this in the past. But like for all the airtime that he's had to fill and all the names he's had to call throughout like 20, almost like 30 years now of his career, I don't recall this sort of repetitive, like singular, like person that he's miscalled multiple times in the same match.
It's like this weird tick he's got. He's like, he just can't get over this one.
It was just like, it was kind of funny, honestly. And I thought like by the end, it was like almost enjoyable. And at the very least, like it makes me remember that Candice LeRae was in this match because she has no other identifiers going for her at the moment.
We got our favorite spot of the whole matchway. We got Zelina Vega, who is short, turning around to face Lash Legend, who is tall.
Yes.
And Tall won out as she military pressed Vega out of here. Man, Zelina has really seen a fall over this last month.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think there was just like, there wasn't much depth to the character to begin with. And without the championship, you're just kind of exposed with not much else beyond it. She didn't even, like, she didn't even get like a promo heading into this Evolution Battle Royal. She just got an appearance.
So some of the other points of the match, eventually Vaquer hit the devil's kiss to Chelsea Green, and then Nikki followed with a TKO. They got rid of Green, and eventually it comes down to the final four with Nikki Bella, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and Stephanie Vaquer. Legend hits a jumping kick to eliminate Nikki. So we have one member from each brand of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT as the last three. Legend lifts up Nia Jax and scoops her onto the edge of the apron. And together with Vaquer, they double team, sending Jax out. And the crowd is cheering for Vaquer and Legend as the final two. Legend lifts her up. They land on the edge. And Vaquer's got her legs around Legend's head. And before Cole can even call it, I'm like, they can't possibly be ending it with this spot. But yes, we get the devil's kiss on the edge of the apron, which sends out Lash Legend in 15 and a half minutes. I thought that was crazy. But then Wade Barrett says, and I quote, "That may have been the greatest battle royal I've ever seen." And I was like, all right, there was some hyperbole there from one Wade Barrett. But yeah, Stephanie Vaquer gets the win. And
that line is about as big of a stretch as calling the camera $100,000 camera. But I mean, I do kind of like understand maybe adrenaline and like being in the moment and being so excited about a match that you're just like actively thinking,
the greatest ever. Nothing has ever touched the last 15 minutes.
I think hyperbole is a requirement of a pro wrestling commentator.
Was this even the best women's battle royal this weekend? I'd say no.
No, it wasn't. No. Well, he didn't watch that one, John. He was calling Saturday night's main event.
No, only nerds watch that one.
But he didn't need to overstate it, but I thought it was a very entertaining battle royal. I thought it exceeded my expectations, and it was like most Royal Rumbles, very well thought out and very well structured. And I thought it gave really strong shine to several people throughout the match, and it was easy to follow, and it built to some, I think, really great final moments here.
Stephanie McMahon gets into the ring, and she goes to interview Vaquer in Spanish, and Vaquer smiles at her, answers, and then pretty much redid the same type of promo she did in NXT, where she explained in English that English is not my first language. This is kind of difficult for me. Thanks, Stephanie. All of the women. Now we can make history. I'm going to keep working hard, and I promise you that you are going to remember my name forever.
Stephanie Vaquer, right?
They did have like Nikki pair with her for like several moments, and I just couldn't help but think about that being the reason why they decided to do that.
They bonded that over that promo. Yeah. But yes,
I thought she sounded great. I didn't realize she had already cut this promo in NXT, so maybe that kind of takes the edge off of it a little. But I mean, that's kind of
a good promo.
Kind of what NXT is for. You want to like audition your things until
you do your best material at the clubs for when you go on tour.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, I thought she sounded really great here at cutting this promo, and I think shows me like a level of advancement in that department well beyond what we're seeing at least with Julia, and certainly I'm sure we'll tell them that this person has a lot of potential for us to put her into like a prime role, not just somebody who can wrestle like in matches, but somebody we can actually craft storylines around. She sounded very good to me. And I wonder if like they'd be considering title change for this Clash in Paris match, because who would she be facing?
She'd be facing Naomi,
the new champion.
Yeah,
interesting.
Though I don't.
We don't know. We don't know how that.
We're not bound by these brands.
Yeah, that's right. But she sounded good. I thought like, were there any other standouts from the battle royal for you?
I think like they gave Jada Parker at least the Natalya elimination. It was one of my complaints is that, it was a fine battle royal, but I didn't get the sense like were there any pairings or stories coming out of this?
Lash Legend being put into the final two, I think, number one, it was kind of telegraphed who was going to win by that point, because Lash Legend likely isn't going to challenge for a WWE Championship at Clash in Paris. But I thought it was worthwhile investment into telling the audience.
You didn't think that they would go with the easy Lash in Paris title opportunity?
Love it. They could have that. Yeah, I should have thought about that. But being a finalist in a battle royal is something that she will use as her identity.
She's improved a lot, and I think she would probably be someone that is ranked very high among people that they do want to get up and moving.
Yeah, like she'll take this back to NXT as just essentially a win for her,
yeah.
And I think that was really smart to use that. I thought Nikki received a tremendous reaction from this crowd, so I do think like they probably still want to do that singles match with her, maybe a tag team match with Brie, just not in this setting. But I think she's really like her star has grown since her time away, and the fact that
she did all the media this week.
Exactly, the fact that she's she's got that mainstream crossover appeal that TKO seems to love so much, just tells me that she'll be getting more opportunities.
And then the final celebrities, we had someone I am not familiar with, Funny Marco, who Michael Cole informed us has over 1 million YouTube subscribers, and said, known for his great deadpan humor. Something about Michael Cole just describing it like that made me think, known for his great deadpan humor. And then Quavo Quavo's not missing in Atlanta.
Also known
PLE.
for his deadpan humor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main event, IYO SKY, Rhea Ripley for the women's world title. They go back and forth, and then they yell at each other, I respect you. I respect you. Good. So let's fight. And we get into things here. Sky hit an Asai moonsault. Did a lot of creative stuff here, including a 619 into a head scissors, smashing Rhea's head into the apron. She hits the bullet train attack, a poison Rana, and then is knocked off balance from the top as Ripley hits a razor's edge, follows with a sit-out powerbomb, and a riptide is countered as Sky gets to the back for the rear naked choke. Sky stops a superplex and goes for a springboard missile dropkick. You know how this goes. This was not a good weekend for the refs when it came to being collateral damage. Rhea moves, and Jessica Carr is hit with the missile dropkick. You may as well have said that she was hit with a missile because she was out for the next 10 minutes, okay?
Well, the thing, we don't often see female refs take ref bumps.
No, not often, but this is,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Why can't they get knocked unconscious for unreasonable amounts of time?
I don't know.
So Rhea headbutts her and hits the riptide, and she goes to cover her, and she is shocked. It's like, you literally just saw what happened. She wasn't out cold. She just saw what all of us saw, and she's just perplexed. Where's the ref?
Have you ever been in a wrestling match where you've attacked the referee, John?
Many times.
Adrenaline pumping through your veins. You're just focused on attacking your opponent. By the moment you finally are able to pin them down, hitting your riptide for a 1, 2, 3, to realize that moment had to be when the ref was down, you have eyes bulging out as well.
So Rhea decided the next best thing from winning the title is taking IYO over to the set of production cases in the crowd, and she was going to murder IYO SKY, but IYO thwarted this attack and came off the production cases with a big cross body, and they make their way back ringside. Sky is thrown into the desk, and she comes back with a sunset powerbomb, sending Rhea onto the floor, goes for the over the moonsault, hits it as Carr comes back to life. 1, 2, and Rhea kicks out. Sky can't believe it, lifts her up to the top, one woman Spanish fly, and both women are down on the mat as the fans are viewing Maybelline, New York, underneath their backs as Naomi proceeds with caution to the ring with her busted nose, cashes in. It is now a triple threat match, so that means no DQs as she smashes Sky with the briefcase. Ripley is thrown into the corner and onto the floor, split-legged moonsault. Naomi pins IYO SKY to win the championship and ends the show with the title change.
First, I thought this was a great match and a great end to the PLE. I think we have to maybe put into perspective this IYO SKY title reign happening, I think, at a time when I could not have predicted in the lead up to WrestleMania. At the time I didn't think much of it, but in the time since, I think she's really just been at her best, going from just kind of being in somewhat underutilized and somewhat in obscurity as part of a damage control to now being, I think, a clear front runner for being the best female wrestler in the division and among the very best wrestlers period in this entire company. She's been performing at a level that's I think well beyond the standard and continues to elevate the already very high standard of what women's wrestling is in the WWE. I thought they crafted this match to make her look so heroic and just so many strong babyface spots here, including that balcony dive. And I was also taken aback by how clearly heel Rhea was, and this was the case also in the 3-way that they were building to in WrestleMania, where almost uncharacteristically, Rhea looked far more heelish than she typically does. And at this point, I kind of take it to mean this is just the sort of frustration in her career that's going to drive her into being more of a heel. And I kind of like that at this point. So, keeping IYO as Rhea's one form of kryptonite, I think is just such gold. The type of gold that I think they could save to really build up for an eventual culmination at a place like a WrestleMania, for instance. Or maybe she never beats IYO in her career. I'm completely fine with that. So to end this with the cash in, again, retains that. You still have IYO never losing to Rhea Ripley. And with this big title change ultimately kind of makes this gets the crowd going home happy and leaves this pay-per-view feeling like it was a significant
You got the
one to
big pop
watch.
at the end of the show, something big and newsworthy that was going to end the show on a high note. And I mean, this also does set up, like, they pretty much said, like, Naomi pretty much moves to Raw now with this title, and you've got Tiffany against Jade Cargill at SummerSlam on the SmackDown side.
Tiffany versus Jade Cargill on SmackDown, right? Interesting.
Because that was already set up with the Queen of the Ring.
Huh, that's so interesting. Okay, so it takes the cash in out of like that, which we expected to take place somehow with like Jade and Stratton. So what is the potential sort of end goal here? Could Naomi have the championship and Jade, like, could Naomi and Jade both be champions by the end of SummerSlam? And at what point could they meet? Or is this them separating the two of
Well,
them?
I thought it was interesting because you've got Jade beating Naomi before she wins the title. That's like classic booking of your future champion doing a job beforehand to set up a challenger. You are on separate shows, but I don't think that's necessarily a big deal. But you're not going to that immediately because with SummerSlam, you've already announced like the Stratton Jade side of things. And I think with Naomi, you'll keep her paired with like, it's natural coming out of this that she's with like IYO and Rhea in this title picture on Raw.
Yeah.
But
fascinating.
I don't know. Maybe you hold off on like the whole, like how Bianca fits into all of this. But yeah, it does feel like Naomi and Jade are at least going to be separate for at least this next pay-per-view cycle and maybe a bit longer.
I mean, all of this was all the more unexpected because I think we so expected Naomi to cash in, or at least somehow involving like the Jade storyline, either with Naomi cashing in on Stratton or on Jade herself. So her cashing in on the Raw champion made this that much more of a shocking, thing. They do have like a champions versus champions match, right? For Australia, I believe, this year. Don't they? Aren't they doing that?
Right, with the crown jewel. So yeah, like it's very possible that by the time you get to that October show, these two will have the titles on each show.
Yeah, but interesting result in what I ultimately thought was a very good PLE. In my opinion.
I thought so too. Like my match of the show was the IC title match. I'd put the main event second. The main event, by the way, 26 minutes and 20 seconds, by far the longest match of the show. So I thought those were if I was going to do the match recommendations, it'd be the first and last matches.
Yeah. But for me, like, I thought everything turned out relatively well because of this excellent crowd lifting everything. Like everybody felt like, a star, even like the NXT acts, which I guess you wouldn't necessarily expect to receive like some of the bigger ovations, but like I thought everybody received a really certain, high level of noise. So I enjoyed the show.
Do you expect that this is a yearly show now?
Depends on Maybelline and depends on brands like Maybelline like being attached to it, because again, this like what this has going for it is the fact that it offers the access for them to sell to different types of brands, to as part of their portfolio, as part of their of flywheel. I'm just trying to think of like various hit the soundboard, John, please.
Our conviction as it applies to the industrial logic of this merger has been affirmed.
It's these sort of shows that I think are attractive to them for that reason, and also why AAA is probably an attractive acquisition for them, because it allows them to enter different markets that they wouldn't be able to enter for just another PLE, right? And I think that's almost more important than how many tickets this sells.
Yeah, I feel they're almost obligated to do this yearly at this point. But I mean, you would have maybe said that in 2018 and they quietly like not only never brought it back as a pay-per-view, like not even to do like a SmackDown special as Evolution each year. Like that would have been an easy go-to. Like they did not revisit this after 2018, whatever you thought of that show.
Why do you think they're obligated to? You think they get bad press if they don't? I mean, care about bad press.
It's not going to be overwhelming. I do feel it's as though, yeah. I mean, if they don't do the show next year, I think it'll be notable the fact that just like the last time, they are not following up with another one. But yeah, like, can they withstand it? Of course they can. But I don't know at this point if you're reintroducing this and then it doesn't come back. It's almost like it does paint this as like a concept that has not succeeded twice.
Yeah, if they do it next year, I really do hope they learn from the mistakes of this one and they put some real effort into making every match on the show feel like it's like worthy of like its own show.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like this show is losing a lot of the stars that like most of the stars, you could argue, that are a part of a typical WWE PLE. And to make up for that, they needed to at least give these matches appropriate build up to feel like they are star power driven matches. And they're not, like they weren't. My anticipation going into this was relatively low.
It was the concept. You were either in on the concept or you weren't, because none of these matches were built up with any kind of urgency or long-term payoff to anything. Like even Naomi and Jade. Naomi and Jade would be your one like long-term match that was built up. And I can't say it felt like it was like this big showdown by the time they got here. Like it was fine match in the middle of the card that I don't think didn't have the feel of a match that has been going back months of buildup.
But it was the strength of the performances on the show and the strength of the booking on the show that I mean, will leave, I think, most people watching it very satisfied and will hopefully generate enough buzz for a next year's version of it. But in wrestling, you kind of need all of those things. And I think the attendance kind of reflects the poor job that they did in building this up.
Before we go to the feedback, what is your overall takeaway from this weekend of what worked, what didn't work? And like, we are going to see probably maybe not to the extreme of this weekend in the past, but like this is going to be the game plan. And it is all about diverting attention from the opposition shows. Like, was this a worthwhile tactic for WWE, even if they lost ground on some of their shows? Was this overall a net positive for what WWE was seeking to do? And like, what do you take from this weekend?
Yeah. So I think to answer that, we have to ask, well, what were the expectations of the WWE? How much of the pie did they really want to grab from AEW All In? How much of the conversation did they want to grab from AEW All In? Because we are lending some conversation at least to like the events that the WWE produced this week. Is it so much that it in any way harms AEW this weekend? Not at all. Like in fact, like again, because the strength and the gulf of like importance between an All In and any of these other shows was so high, and I would even say coming out of it, Saturday night's main event for sure. Evolution, I think it was like closer, like better in quality. But like the gulf between an All In and any of these shows is still so high that it only makes the WWE look worse in comparison, right, to anybody who might be sampling the both of them. But maybe they're not even aiming for that, John. Like maybe they're just aiming to make sure like the casual fan will somehow be prevented from like being interested in checking out an All In, or like maybe not seeing as many tweets about it on their timeline. It's hard to say. I think it's a stupid game ultimately. That doesn't really benefit the WWE much, but I also don't know exactly what their goals are and what they might consider a win from it all.
Let's go. I think that if you are WWE, I think this is the idea that, okay, there's like oncoming traffic and you're not going to stop the traffic, but hey, we'll throw some like sticks onto the road, and they do have to like, it's not going to derail you.
Is that what Evolution was? And Goldberg's retirement, sticks on the road? Listen, yeah, it kind of feels like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
It was an interesting weekend as well, in the sense that here you are like presenting all of these shows, and they did hold back on like no Cody, no CM Punk, no Roman Reigns. Like they had big stars, but it's not like they loaded either of these shows with all of their artillery. But it was enough that it was like it's not like you have a definitive scoreboard at the end of this. It's in this era, like you're not going to get a streaming number. You're not going to get for Evolution. Saturday night's main event, we're comparing a network television special to a pay-per-view. It's not as though WWE is going to have, egg on their face afterwards. It's just, it's all these, like anyone can make their arguments of like whether this was smart or not. But my takeaway from it is that I think WWE did more harm for themselves this weekend, in particular, the Evolution card. And I mean, it goes without saying, like NXT was just sent out there to die on Saturday afternoon. And that's, to you as the NXT consumer, like that is the function now of these not the NXT product weekly, but the PLEs, that is the function of NXT, to just be another option that we're going to throw out, and they'll do it for Forbidden Door, and it'll probably just continue. But I think it does great harm to their NXT brand and what it's meant to be when you're just sending it out to fail like this.
Not only did they harm their own brand, they strengthened AEW's as the underdog, which is exactly the thing that gives AEW life. The fact that it is, a secondary brand who is being, trying to overcome the bullying tactics of the main, number one brand. They just
because a lot of the tactics used to be like pretty much like you could, if you are follow this at some reasonable rate, like you're not in the weeds on all this stuff. I think a lot more of the audience is much more, because it's so in your face now, like what the game is. Yeah. And WWE is certainly coming across here as the bully with the big stick, and I think it is
with the many sticks.
With many
evidently.
Sticks. Yeah.
Well, to put it in simple pro wrestling terms, they are the monster heel trying to prevent the babyface from, having a fair match. They're attacking the babyface on the ramp before they can go into the ring to have a fair one-on-one contest, right? And AEW has come out of this entire thing shining brightly by delivering great quality without any sort of not much reference to the WWE. And AEW, in its bullying efforts, I think just kind of made it itself feel like a more hateable brand.
Yeah, and I think AEW, this was they have done something that has been very tough, and that's kind of get out of this hole that they had been in, and they were very much becoming the uncool brand, and that's very hard to eradicate. And I do feel like this weekend, it definitely feels like they have shaken that label. It is not the number one wrestling promotion in the world. It's a very solid number two, but I think in terms
hold on a second. According to what metric? You're talking about money, right? You're talking about eyeballs, you're talking about attendance. But is it the number one wrestling company in the world in terms of quality?
I mean,
is that at least debatable? And I think for a large section of the audience, it is.
It's listen, there is going to be fans that they love their WWE product and such. I mean, that just comes down to your subjective taste of what you like out of wrestling.
As an alternative brand, I don't know if you can ever dream of competing in terms of just pure numbers with a leading brand, especially with a 30-year, 40-year head start. What you can compete with is critical acclaim, audience acclaim, and AEW is certainly managing that this particular weekend in this particular moment.
Let's go to forum.postwrestling.com, where you can always leave feedback after shows. We start off with Brian in New Jersey. I watched Saturday night's main event and the Great American Bash before catching Evolution. Evolution was my favorite of the three events by a mile. A lot of good action that really flew by. I thought IYO and Ripley had a great main event with Seth Rollins' WrestleMania cash-in scenario, giving Naomi a big moment while still keeping Ripley and IYO strong. I also thought Becky, Bayley, Lyra in the opener was very strong. Plus, we finally saw Blake Monroe turn heel, though it wasn't touching Mariah May's heel turn in AEW. No, she didn't have a heel, and there was no blood.
Not that I think it was meant to compete with that. I think if anything, it was meant to carry on from that. Again, I mean, they have Blake Monroe be a big deal because they're assuming everybody knows who she is, or at least knows of the Toni Storm feud, and maybe the bare facts of it being she befriended Toni Storm and then turn on her. They are essentially speeding it up because we are all expecting the turn anyway. And probably, would find it a bit hard to buy into. Anyway, Andrew from Cape Breton says, Evolution had a lot to live up to, and I think it managed to succeed in being a great show. I normally hate how WWE do their pay-per-views with 4 to 5 matches in 4 hours with all their video packages in advance. This show seemed a lot similar to older style pay-per-views in which the pace was a lot better. Stephanie Vaquer is great. I feel that knowing English is overrated when it comes to promos nowadays. If you're over, you could just say what you can, and the fans will throw confetti and babies in the air. The highlight was the main event, and IYO and Rhea was really good. Great to see Naomi as the top heel act. At least for now, she seemed pretty popular. The only negative was Blake Monroe's weird turn, where it sounded like the commentators thought it was an accident. She seems to have had a rougher transition than I thought she would. Plus, Stephanie thought she debuted yesterday. Overall, probably the best WWE pay-per-view this year.
Well, it was Great American Bash was Blake's first televised match since coming into the company. So that's what they meant by her debut. Jeremy in Texas, despite having a lackluster build, I thought Evolution was a solid show. I think they ended up selling a little over 8,000 tickets. A solid main event with a surprising finish. If there's one thing NXT has done, it's help find and create female stars. In regard to Seth Rollins, if this is an angle, are they going too far faking an injury and presenting what looked to be an impromptu finish? They brought up a plan B and storyline. Does throwing a match make sense? Or is this, for lack of a better term, Russo-level booking, swerving for the sake of a swerve? It's not a swerve for the sake of a swerve, because there is a purpose to this that has, in theory, a big payoff at the end with Rollins. Where it is in comparison is that if you are, once you're in the territory of working like the people in the back and all of that stuff, that is where you breed like mistrust, when people are not being made aware of things. And that's where I think you get into a territory that, you know, people that should know are kept in the dark.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a hallmark in WCW.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like that to me would feel like it would be going too far. Maybe they have some modern justification for it. Like, hey, like, we got to do what we can to, you know, protect this from like the leaks and things like that. Like maybe they can like spin it somehow to make it feel like it's warranted, but I don't think I don't know. Let's see how it unfolds. It feels almost like too difficult to talk about right now. Slim Seeper says Saturday night's main event was a very average show, maybe the weakest one since the relaunch. Although I will say I thought Goldberg and Gunther over-delivered, and I think Goldberg should be very happy with his final performance. As for Evolution, I don't think it's an unpopular opinion that this may be the WWE show of the year. Nothing was bad on the show, and it was bookended by two incredible matches. IYO Ripley was right on par with the Mania Triple Threat, and I was very happy to see Valkyria win the Battle Royal. It will be very interesting to see if Naomi is a long-term champion, or if they opt to put the belt on Valkyria in Paris. Excellent show. Yeah, so that's the match, right? Valkyria,
well, you got to get through SummerSlam first, and then
right.
That's at the end of August is the Paris show. All right, Cam, I rarely comment, but this was a great PLE and I could enjoy with my family. WWE shouldn't treat this like a distant stranger. Furthermore, there were so many NXT talents that my family and I had not seen before who were very impressive. And while I don't know their characters, I know we were all compelled. Such a stark contrast from just a decade ago when primarily it was just the Four Horsewomen. Future is as stocked as my Oklahoma City Thunder.
The standard is incredibly high right now for women's wrestling, and like it everybody is a result of NXT, right? And this current crop that they have down there that they're just like slowly feeding into the main roster is just, yeah, it's the next time they do Evolution, I think it'll be even stronger. I mean, if it's hopefully not 7 years.
Well, they got 7 years, so.
Let's go to Muggin, who says the second album usually brings pressure to top the first one. In WWE's case, Evolution 2 had a lot to live up to. They were given an inch and they took whatever the hell they wanted. This show absolutely cleared the bar with ease. I was a little gutted that Jordynne Grace fell short again, but everything else from the 3-way to the 4-way tag title match to the main event was hotter than fish grease. They gave that energy back tenfold. Rhea and Neo put on a career performance here, but IYO broken nose and all. Sorry, but Naomi broken nose and all threw caution to the wind and shook up the entire landscape. Also, Stephanie Valkyria winning the Battle Royal was the right move. Home run. Saturday night's main event is a hard to watch with those disruptive ad breaks. Yes.
All right.
Cool.
This was at the press conference afterwards. Triple H did address the Seth Rollins injury. So this is from Fightful. He was asked about the injury. He said, "It's a little bit inconclusive. It doesn't look good. We're in Birmingham tomorrow. He came here tonight. He was not going to miss his wife's performance tonight. He was here, and he'll be in Birmingham tomorrow with Dr. Jeffrey Dugas. We'll get an MRI, hope for the best, and see where we can go with that." That is Paul Levesque.
Interesting. Yeah, I love it. I'm very fascinated.
Are you doubting me, Wai?
I'm not. But I want to know what those likes are. You know, because like, I think we are going to get those MRI photos. I think like, I don't know, and I just don't know. I know enough to say I don't know. Okay, how about that? But like I at least like have my sort of radar to detect a lot more strongly than I would typically for something like this.
Well, I'll probably be on an island by myself, but we will see where this all goes. That's going to wrap up the show, everyone. So thanks for joining us, whether it was Saturday, Sunday, or catching all of our shows. Hey, a very big thank you to Wai Ting, who has gone 3 nights straight, and he is back Monday night for Rewind to Raw. A true Iron Man that is carrying a lot on his plate. So a big thank you, Wai.
I'm just trying to live up to my end of the bargain here. And again, thank you for the entire team at postwrestling.com for stellar work covering all of these events this past weekend.
Yeah, a big thank you to John Kleinchester, Jack Wannon, Neil Flanagan. They were on top of all of the shows this weekend on the site. So a big thank you to all of them. As I mentioned, we're back Monday night after Raw, and we'll be going through all of that and all of the latest news. So hit subscribe here on the YouTube channel, and you can join us live minutes after Raw goes off the air at postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 gets you in the door with 30 days access. You can see what all the hype is about, all of the shows you get on a weekly basis. We're going to be having plenty coming up this week with the start of the G1.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I thought I'd be able to rest next weekend, but no, we're heading into playoffs. Our playoffs here with the G1 coming up.
A wild summer coming up. Best way is to be part of the Post Wrestling Cafe. For Wai Ting, I am John Pollock, and that concludes our Evolution post show.